everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about The Lies We Trade by Kristine Delano. So, this one is a suspense novel and it fits within the Christian fiction category. And it's also Christine's debut novel, which is really fun. So, why did I want to read this one? Well, as I'm always drawn to debut novels, so discovering new authors is something I do enjoy. So, that was definitely a draw card. But I was also intrigued by the premise. So it's set in New York City in the financial world, and our main character works at Wall Street. So all of that was fun as well. And I'm going to add my usual disclaimer and say thank you to the publisher who provided me with an advanced reader copy. And all the opinions that I express in this episode are completely my own. And also, we have a giveaway associated with this episode, and that's a paperback copy for a reader who lives in the USA and has a mailing address there. So I'll add more information about the giveaway at the end, and all the links will be in the show notes. So let's talk about the book. The Lies We Trade by Kristine Delano is set in New York City. So we're in the financial district, we're at Wall Street, we have scenes at the New York Stock Exchange, which is really fun. So this one is a suspense novel that has quite a few tropes. We've got the unknown danger that goes with suspense stories. It also has women fiction themes as well. So we've got a lot of family drama happening. We have a marriage in crisis, the marriage in trouble trope as well. And we also have a lot of work drama because the suspense is very much connected to our main character's job. And it's a short time frame novel. So the story pretty much happens over a matter of a couple of weeks, which I really liked as well. So the first line in the story is this one. I always watch for the pivot. I sense it before I see it, and I notice it before the crowd. So we're in chapter one, and this is Meredith, our main character, who's thinking this. And it's kind of a foreshadowing prophetic thought because, as you can probably guess, she does miss something. And what she misses becomes very important later. And chapter one is effectively 1 week before Meredith's work life blows up, which I'll get to in a sec. So, Meredith, she's around 40 years old. She's married with 2 kids, and she's a portfolio manager at a Wall Street firm. And she's very successful. And in the opening chapter, she's actually doing a media interview where she's talking about the success that she's had in her job and her career. So, at the start of the story, we do stay in Meredith's point of view throughout the whole story. So, it's single point of view, first person. And we have her husband who's 20 years older than her, and he's effectively a tradie. So he's been renovating their house and is very handy at fixing things. She's got a daughter who's in high school, and I'll get to her in a moment because there's a lot of drama connected to her. They've got a son as well who's in middle school, and they live in the suburbs north of New York City. So she's effectively traveling and commuting to get to work at the office. So, this story has a number of problems. And as I said, there are women's fiction themes in the story, and we have a marriage in trouble. And Meredith and her husband, Clint, at the start of the story, are very, very close to splitting up and having a formal separation. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened over a long period of time that is reaching a point where something's going to break if something major doesn't change. And so Meredith has a very high pressure job. She's working extremely long hours, has a lot of responsibility. She's managing billions of dollars worth of investment assets for clients. So there's a lot at stake in terms of what's happening in her job. And she's got some really big problems. And when the story blows up, we discover that one of her trusted people, who she recruited out of college and has effectively mentored, has gone rogue. And a whole lot of bad stuff has happened. And Meredith's head is spinning, and she has absolutely no idea why this particular person has gone rogue and what's actually going on. And so we have numerous mysteries in the story to try and work out. And a lot of that relates to who's lying and who's telling the truth, and who can she believe and who can she trust. because everything that she thinks is true might not necessarily be true. And we also have Meredith's husband and her children are also in danger. So that's her high school daughter and her son, who's in middle school, that loves robotics. And he spends some time during the story at summer camp indulging in his love for robotics. And we have the subplot in the story. So we don't go into her teen daughter's head, but there's definitely a side story connected to her very secretive teenage daughter, and she's extremely secretive, more so I think than the typical teen, and she's got herself into a whole lot of trouble, and we discover the big mess that she's in as the story progresses. So I loved reading this story. It was so fun to journey off the characters, and I did worry about them as well, and it was a page turner. I kept turning the page to find out what happens next, and I really loved the characters. There was so much depth, and it was really fun to sort of peel back all those layers, and to find out what's really going on with the characters and to understand why they do what they do. I really enjoyed that. And I very much empathized with Meredith and the situation she was in, and also her husband and daughter, because some really hard stuff was going on and some really hard stuff had happened in the past that needed to be dealt with as well. And the suspense really did build and build and build as the story progressed until we got to the climax of the story where everything is exposed and blowing up. And so I wouldn't describe this one as being high octane. So we don't spend the whole story with the characters on the run, worried about imminent danger. But that suspense is very much beneath the surface. And as the mysteries all come through in the story, it builds and builds and builds. And I really enjoyed that. And I also loved having an urban setting. It was really fun to be in New York City and to get to see some real places as well. I really enjoyed that in the story. And we also have the ringing of the bell at the close of trade at the New York Stock Exchange as part of the story. And that was fun too. I really liked that. And the side characters, there were some very interesting characters, as you can imagine, because this book is set at work and a lot of the story relates to Meredith's job. We do meet some very interesting characters, and we get a real insight into her work life and what it's like to be a woman working in what was traditionally a man's world. It was quite eye-opening from that perspective as well. And the side characters kept me guessing in terms of, are you a good guy or are you a bad guy? It was kind of like that. We didn't quite know for quite a while who we could trust and who we couldn't trust. And then Meredith and Clint's marriage, it was hard to read about that at the beginning of the story because they clearly loved each other, and they when they got married, everything was fine. And then over time, things had unraveled and their communication wasn't great, and it was quite a journey that we went on with these characters in terms of what they were going to do with their marriage and whether their marriage could be restored. And I really thought that was very sensitively handled by Kristine in terms of how she wrote their marriage relationship. And it was also, I think, very realistic in terms of looking at the issues and problems that can happen in relationships. And often that comes again back to trust and communication and actually not keeping secrets from each other and all those kinds of things as well. And the family drama and their teenage daughter. Oh my goodness, what a mess this girl got herself into with some immaturity mixed up with some unwise decisions. And it was very much had those coming of age angsty themes in it because she was quite emotional as well. And it was, yeah, there was a lot going on with her daughter that then also put pressure on Meredith and Clint's marriage as well as they were trying to manage what was happening with their daughter. And I just love the story ending in terms of how the suspense played out. It was really well done. And also what was going on with the characters and their relationships. I appreciate how that was all tied up as well. So, in terms of the faith elements, I would describe this one as having relevant faith elements that are probably quite light on the page, but they're definitely there in the story. And once you get to the end of the story, you get to unpack a bit more about what was going on with the faith elements. But the story addresses forgiveness themes and looks very much at trust issues and who can you trust in certain situations. And the characters some of them were really dealing with some really hard emotional baggage and some big stuff that had happened in the past that was impacting their current relationships. And they really needed to forgive and let go of past hurts and go on a healing journey in the story. And so I appreciated how we saw the healing of broken relationships. But at the same time, we also saw some really good boundaries being set as well, and the healthy boundaries. And I can't really say any more than that because I don't want to give away spoilers, but I really appreciated the journey that all the characters went on, and it made sense where they landed at the end as well. So, my favorite book quote in the story is this one. Although none of us deserve to be targeted, we all did things for which we're accountable. And this really does sum up what's going on for a number of characters in this story because we've got characters who've made mistakes, who've made poor choices. They've made unwise decisions when they probably should have known that what they were doing wasn't the best choice, but they did it anyway. And that's really relatable. And they really couldn't avoid the natural consequences for the choices they made. And they had to live out those consequences in the story. And I really appreciated how that all played out and how the accountability played into the story as well. So, in terms of the impact on me, this one was a page turner. I was very worried about Meredith pretty much from the beginning with what was happening to her and her not knowing what was going on and where this unknown danger was coming from. And there were also some really poignant moments, particularly with this fractured family, where there was some big stuff that they were dealing with as a family and looking at whether they could heal their family relationships and how that would look and the journey they'd need to go on in terms of healing their relationships as well. It was really well done, and I appreciated that. And Meredith and Clint's teen daughter, oh my goodness, she was, I think, very realistic in terms of is really going on in the real world. And we do see what I would call the dark side of technology play out in the story, where younger people just don't know what they don't know, and so they can make a decision to do something that they can think is okay, but they really don't understand the consequences for the choices they've made. And then if they knew what the consequences for the choices were going to be, they never would have made that decision in the first place. And it was quite scary to see what was going on with their daughter as well. And it's also quite educational. And it kind of reminds me of why in Australia we have laws stopping teenagers under the age of 16 from using social media. Because although in this situation, I think their daughter is over 16, but it really does it's really, yeah, there's some really bad and scary stuff can happen to young people. And I appreciated how those issues were touched on and addressed in the story in a really sensitive way. And so if you're a parent with teenagers and you're interested in learning about things that sticky situations that they can get themselves into could have that could have involvement with needing the police to be involved in certain situations as well, then you might appreciate reading those story elements. So, in summary, I would recommend The Lies We Trade to readers who like suspense stories set in the financial world, to readers who like having all those mysteries and the unknown danger and never quite knowing what's going on and what danger could be lurking around the corner. If you like stories with work drama and danger all mixed up together, and family drama and marriage in trouble stories and teen daughter drama, then you'll definitely like this one. And if you like your suspense stories with a short time frame where you've got a very intense lot of stuff happening at once, then you'll like this one. And if you like your suspense stories that have relevant faith elements that are very organic to the story and address forgiveness themes, then you'll like this one as well. Thanks for joining me today. Does The Lies We Trade sound like a book that you'd like to read? Have you read it? What did you think? You can let me know. If you're listening on the podcast, you can send me a text via a link in the show notes. If you're watching at YouTube, you can like the episode and leave a comment at YouTube. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And you can do that at your favorite podcasting app or at YouTube, and then you'll get notified of when the next episode drops. You can also contact me by emailing me at my website where I have a contact form at narelleatkins.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the link with a friend, especially a friend who likes reading suspense novels, and also a friend who you think would enjoy reading Kristine's book. So now for the giveaway. So I'm very excited. I've got a paperback copy of Kristine's book to give away to a reader that has a USA mailing address. So the giveaway will close on the 28th of January at midnight, which is USA West Coast time, which is actually the 29th of January in Australia, but I'm using the American timing to make it easy for you guys. So the link to enter the giveaway, you'll find that in the show notes and also on the episode page. So make sure you don't forget to enter. You've got a couple of weeks to do that after the episode drops. Though, thanks for tuning in and see you next time.